Today we're covering section 2.3 of our BJU Press Algebra 1 textbook. This lesson is over using the distributive property. Let's begin by simplifying expressions using the distributive property. So our first problem, we have 2 parentheses 3 plus 7. If we were to use our distributive property, we would distribute the 2. So we do 2 times 3 and then 2 times 7. 2 times 3 is 6 and 2 times 7 is 14. Then we would add the 6 and the 14 together and we would get 20. The next one is 3 parentheses 7 minus 5. If we were to distribute the 3, we would have 3 times 7 minus 3 times 5. 3 times 7 is 21, and 3 times 5 is 15, and then 21 minus 15 is 6. Let's try these. This one is 5 parentheses a plus 6. So we have 5 times a, or 5a, plus 5 times 6, which is 30. Our next problem, we have 3 terms to distribute the negative 2 to. So we have negative 2 times a, which is negative 2a, negative 2 times b, which is negative 2b, and negative 2 times 3, which is negative 6. Our next problem has negative 3 parentheses x minus 7. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21, which is why that becomes plus 21. So let's go ahead and look at the definition for the distributive property. It says for any real numbers, and we're going to represent those real numbers with the variables a, b, and c. If you have a parentheses b plus c, it's the same as saying a times b plus a times c. So the distributive property is often used to simplify algebraic expressions. Let's look at an example. Let's say we want to distribute 4 parentheses a plus 3b. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take the 4, that's what's being distributed, and we're going to multiply 4 by every single term on the inside of the parentheses. So 4 times a and then 4 times 3b. Well, 4 times a is 4a, and 4 times 3b is 12b. Let's look at another example. This one, we have negative 2 that we want to distribute. And when we distribute the negative 2, we're going to multiply every term by negative 2. So we're going to multiply 3x squared by negative 2. We're going to multiply 4x by negative 2. But notice how this was minus 4x. I still have my minus right here. And then we're going to multiply 5 by negative 2. So negative 2 times 3x squared becomes negative 6x squared. Negative 2 times 4x becomes negative 8x. So we have minus negative 8x, which is plus 8x. Then we have negative 2 times 5, which is negative 10, which is why this is minus 10. Our next definition is term. A term is a constant, variable raised to a power, or the product or quotient of a constant and variables. So like terms are terms that have the same variables and those variables have the same exponents on them. Terms are separated by addition and subtraction. That's how you can tell how many terms an expression has. So for example, 3x minus 4y plus 5x, each term is separated by addition or subtraction. So we have one term here, another term here, and then a third term here, which means that we have 3 terms. Let's look at how to simplify this one. We have 3x minus 4y plus 5x. So when we combine like terms, we can only put terms together that have the same variables with the same exponents. So we're going to use the commutative property to rearrange this problem. So now it says 3x plus 5x minus 4y. And that's legal because that's the commutative property. Then we're going to use the distributive property to say, well, 3x plus 5x is the same as 3 plus 5 times x. So notice that we pulled the x out, okay? So we use the distributive property there. So 3 plus 5 is 8. So now we have 8x minus 4y. Next example, 7x squared plus 8x minus 4x squared plus 10x. So again, I'm going to use my commutative property to rearrange this expression so that way my like terms are next to each other. So I have 7x squared minus 4x, that's 3x squared, and I have 8x plus 10x, that's 18x. So whenever we were combining like terms, it was almost like we were just adding the numbers in front of the variables. And that's true. We were adding what's called the numerical coefficient. The numerical coefficient, which we just usually say coefficient, is the numerical factor or the constant or the number that accompanies the variables in a term. So if this is our expression, 3x squared minus 7x squared plus x squared, and we want to know what the coefficients are, well, the coefficient of 3x squared is 3. The coefficient of minus 7x squared is actually negative 7, because the negative goes along with it. And then the coefficient of x squared is that invisible 1 in front of it, because 1 times anything is itself. So when we combine like terms, the first thing we have to do is identify the like terms. And then we combine them by adding their coefficients, which is the number that is in front of the variables. So if we have 3x squared minus 7x squared plus x squared, step 1 is to identify the like terms. All of those terms are alike. So that means that we can add their coefficients together. Remember, our coefficients were 3, negative 7, and 1. 3 plus negative 7 plus 1 is negative 3. So when we combine all our like terms, we end up with negative 3x squared. Let's look at this example. This one's a long one. 8x cubed minus x squared plus x cubed plus 4x cubed minus x squared plus 6x cubed. So remember, step 1, identify the like terms. So I put in blue the terms that have x cubed, and in brown are the terms that have x squared. So when I combine my x cubed terms, I have 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 4 is 13, plus 6 is 19. And then when I combine my brown ones, negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. So I end up with 19x cubes minus 2x squares. Let's try another one. 4x squared y plus 5xy minus 10x squared y plus 22xy minus 8x plus y. So this one, you have to be careful and make sure that you're identifying like terms. So here, the dark blue, I have 4x squared y. The only term that is alike for this one is this minus 10x squared y. In brown, I have 5xy, and the only term that's like 5xy is 22xy. And then in light blue, I have negative 8x, which is not alike anything. And then lastly, I have y, which again has nothing alike. So 4x squared y minus 10x squared y gives me negative 6x squared y. 5 plus 22 gives me 27. Since I can't combine anything with the negative 8x, that becomes part of my answer. And since I can't combine anything with y, that also becomes part of my answer. Let's try this one. 4x squared yz plus 2x squared y plus xy squared minus 3xyz. In this one, there are no like terms, which means that you can't combine anything. So this cannot be simplified. Let's try this one. 2x plus 5, that's in parentheses, plus 3x minus 9, that's in parentheses, minus x minus 6, which is in parentheses. So before we do this, we have to go ahead and distribute this negative. So negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative times negative 6 becomes positive 6. Then I identify my like terms. I have 2x plus 3x is 5x, minus x is 4x. Then I have 5 minus 9 is negative 4, plus 6 becomes plus 6 becomes 2. So my final answer is 4x plus 2. Next example. So this one I have to distribute first. So 3k times k is 3k squared. 3k times 2 is 6k. Negative k times k is negative k squared. And then negative k times negative 1 becomes plus k. Now I'm going to combine like terms. 3k squared minus k squared is 2k squared. And then 6k plus k is 7k. Next example. So for this one, we kind of want to work our inside out, right? Kind of like when we did order of operations. We want to work inside out. So the first thing we want to do is we want to distribute this 4y. 4y times 2x is 8xy. 4y times negative 8y becomes negative 32y squared. So again, this is the first thing that I did, and I end up with this. Now I want to combine any like terms in this middle part. So this 3x and the minus 4x, which becomes negative x. Now I want to distribute this negative. So negative times negative x will become plus x. Negative times 8xy becomes negative 8xy. Negative times negative 32y squared is going to become plus 32y squared. Now I'm going to combine like terms. 7x squared doesn't combine with anything. X doesn't combine with anything. However, this negative 8xy will combine with this positive 5xy. So negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3xy. And then nothing else combines, so this is my simplified answer. All right, that's all the examples for this lesson. Go ahead and try the problems.